Good day once again from the International Space Station Flight Control Room here at the Johnson Space Center in Houston, as our coverage of the return of 3 of the crew members on board the International Outpost continues. We are just 21 minutes away from the point at which Jeff Williams, Alexei Ovchinin, and Oleg Skripochka will command the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft to undock from the Poisk module on the space-facing side of the Russian segment of the International Space Station to begin the journey home for this trio and complete 172 days in space and aboard the station, a journey of 2,752 orbits spanning 72.8 million statute miles. Everything is in great shape. The crew boarded their Soyuz vehicle less than 3 hours ago. We'll show you a replay of the hatch closure shortly. They conducted leak checks at the docking interface between the Soyuz and the Poisk module. Good leak checks were reported. The Soyuz was placed on autonomous power. They then climbed into the descent module, the center section of the 3-section Soyuz vehicle, donned their Russian Sokol launch and entry suits, conducted leak checks on the suits themselves. In the meantime, Russian flight controllers at the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov commanded the hooks to open on the Poisk side of the docking interface. Those hooks will begin to drive open on the Soyuz side just a few minutes from now, with undocking scheduled at 4:51 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time, 5:51 and 30 seconds p.m. Eastern Time. Williams, Skripochka, and Ovchinin, as we said, are on board the TMA-20M vehicle. They will be departing a short time from now. At the moment of physical separation, the Expedition 49 increment on board the station will officially begin under the command of Russian cosmonaut Anatoly Ivanishin, who took over command of the International Space Station yesterday from Jeff Williams. Ovchinin will remain on board, joined by his crewmates, NASA astronaut Kate Rubins and Japanese astronaut Takuya Onishi, who will be a 3-person crew on board the International Complex for the next 17 days until the arrival on September 25th, U.S. time, of the next trio to launch to the International Space Station, that being NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough, along with Russian cosmonauts Andrei Borisenko and Sergei Ryzhikov. You're looking, those are the 3 that will be launching on the next vehicle, the Soyuz MSO-2 vehicle that is set to launch from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan on the afternoon of September 23rd U.S. time, which will be the early morning hours of September 24th in Baikonur, for a deliberate 34-orbit rendezvous to bring them to the station and round out the 6 people on board for the Expedition 49 increment. You're looking at a view from a balcony camera overlooking the Russian Mission Control Center in Korolyov, outside of Moscow, across the ocean, where the Russian flight control team is keeping an eye on things, watching over the data from the Soyuz vehicle, and maintaining a constant conversation with Alexei Ovchinin, the Soyuz commander, who is strapped into the center seat of the descent module of the Soyuz spacecraft. He is flanked on his left by Oleg Skripochka and on his right by Jeff Williams, who is returning tonight to wrap up 534 days in space on his 4 missions spanning 16 years, the most flown U.S. astronaut in history, more days in space than any other U.S. astronaut ever. Skripochka will come home with a total of 331 days in space on his 2 flights, and Ovchinin, of course, wrapping up his first mission into space with 172 days on his log. Down at the landing site in Kazakhstan, south-central Kazakhstan, a NASA Rosaviatsa team, the Russian search and recovery team, is gathered in the remote town of Zhezkazgan, which is about 89 miles to the northwest of the landing site itself. They are up and around in their respective hotels in Zhezkazgan. They'll be making their way in about an hour and a half or so to the Zhezkazgan airport to board the Russian Mi-8 helicopters for about a 40-minute flight from Zhezkazgan to the landing site, where they will approach the landing site in a racetrack fashion, flying around the landing site, awaiting the arrival of the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft. There are 12 Russian Mi-8 helicopters involved in tonight's landing and recovery operations, 8 headed for the prime landing site. 2 helicopters already down at the Kryani airport near the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan, about 300 miles to the southwest of the prime landing site. Those helicopters would be in play in the highly unlikely event a ballistic landing would be triggered by a spacecraft problem that would result in Williams, Ovchinin, and Skripochka landing short of their intended landing site. 2 additional helicopters are at the midpoint between Baikonur and the prime landing site, ready to move in either direction once a nominal landing is called by the search and recovery team as the Soyuz makes its way towards the landing site in Kazakhstan. The weather for the landing, which will take place 24 minutes after sunrise on Wednesday morning in Kazakhstan, is ideal. Just a few clouds at 9,000 feet expected, some scattered clouds at 25,000 feet. Winds very light out of the east at 6 knots. A temperature at landing time expected to be in the mid-60s Fahrenheit. Again, the helicopters will be departing the Zhezkazgan airport right around the time of the deorbit burn. The timeline calls for the undocking command that will initiate the opening of the hooks holding the Soyuz in place to the Poisk module, where it has been since March 19th. The undocking command precedes the actual physical separation of the Soyuz itself from Poisk, which will take place at 4:51 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time. Once the undocking occurs, the Soyuz will conduct several separation burns to move a safe distance away from the station, where the deorbit burn will be executed at 7:21 and 25 seconds p.m. Central Time, a braking maneuver to enable the Soyuz to descend into the Earth's atmosphere. Before it reaches the Earth's atmosphere, pyrotechnic separation of the 3 sections will occur. The crew inside the descent module, with the heat shield facing the direction of travel, will be encountering a plasma encounter with temperatures on the spacecraft building to about 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Later on, the command will be issued to open up the chutes. First, a drogue chute that will slow the spacecraft down considerably. Then a main parachute will be deployed, a huge orange and white parachute. And just a few seconds off the ground, the soft landing engines will fire in a final braking maneuver. Touchdown is expected about 89 miles to the southeast of Zhezkazgan at 8:13 and 53 seconds p.m. Central Time, 7:13 and 53 seconds a.m. at the landing site on Wednesday morning. As we mentioned earlier, the crew about 3 hours ago said farewell to the remaining Expedition 49 crew members, Ivanishin, Onishi, and Rubins. Let's take a look at that hatch closure as the crew members gathered in the passageway of the Poisk module. Jeff Williams, along with Alexei Ovchinin, waving goodbye for one final time. They're joined momentarily there by Alex Skripochka, Jeff Williams, and Ovchinin, and Skripochka wrapping up 172 days for Jeff Williams, the culmination of his 4th flight into space and his 3rd long-duration mission, as the trio gathered in that passageway between Poisk and the open hatchway behind them to the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft. And now you see as Williams first makes his way inside the Soyuz spacecraft, followed by Skripochka, who is in the left seat of the descent module, Williams in the right seat, and Ovchinin as the Soyuz commander entered last with one final wave, blowing kisses to his crewmates, who will now be a three-person crew for the next 2 weeks plus, until the arrival of the next trio of space travelers, including NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough. Ovchinin, you will be hearing from time to time through landing, will be referenced by the call sign Burlock. That is his Soyuz call sign. Burlock, the name for persons who hauled barges and other vessels upstream between the 17th and 20th centuries. That is the call sign for the Soyuz vehicle, and the call sign the Russian flight control team will be talking to Ovchinin with as the Soyuz makes its way from the space station to its deorbit burn position well away from the station and during its descent towards the landing site in Kazakhstan. And again, you see Anatoly Ivanishin, who is the new Expedition 49 commander, putting the final touches on the closing of the hatch between the Poisk module and the Soyuz spacecraft. The hatch closure occurring at 1:42 p.m. Central Time, 2:42 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, the video you're looking at occurred about 3 hours ago with the hatch closing that isolated the returning crew members from the three, Kate Rubins, Takoya Onishi, and Anatoly Ivanishin, who will remain on board the station as a three-person crew for the next 2 weeks and 3 days. We are expecting to pick up downlink television both through the station's KU band communication system as well as through Russian ground stations just a few minutes from now. We're 6 minutes away from the command that will open up the hooks on the Soyuz side of the docking interface, with the actual physical separation occurring just a minute and a half after that at 4:51 and 30 seconds p.m. Central Time. At that point, that marks the official start of Expedition 49. All of the pre-undocking preparations have gone extremely well. No issues, good leak checks. The crew suited up aboard the Soyuz vehicle in the descent module in their respective seats in their Sokol launch and entry suits. They conducted leak checks on those suits a short time ago. Everything is in readiness for undocking.
004500. We sent E2 command, so accelerometer has been lit up, and as well as the control panel 1001 and 1003, and we have pressurization on. KDU repress is on.
Бурлаки, зажмите, пожалуйста, клавишу передачи для подавления помех.
Бурлаки, could you please depress transmit a button to reduce noise? Okay, we have depressed this button. What are the KDU parameters?
Just 4 minutes away from the command to open up the hooks on the Soyuz vehicle. At the moment of physical separation, springs on both sides of the docking interface will push off against one another to create the physical separation. That will be followed over the course of the next few minutes by 2 separate separation burns to increase the Soyuz's opening rate away from the International Space Station.
Turn the light on. S-17 is on. The light is on. A wide-angle camera is on. Copy. It's on.
The International Space Station is currently flying 258 statute miles over western China, moving from southwest to northeast in an orbit inclined 51.6 degrees to either side of the equator.
It's on, and the LED is on, and SRV is off, OFF. Moscow, Burlak 1. 004900. Command D7, Dog 7 has been sent. Copy. Oleg, please prepare D7.
The International Space Station and the attached Soyuz TMA-20M vehicle has now passed within range of Russian ground stations. You're looking at a view from one of the newly installed HD external cameras on the truss of the station. A good view of the TMA-20M. In the center section are the 3 crew members, the object of attention tonight: Jeff Williams, Alex Gripochka, and Soyuz Commander Alexei Ovchinin. Station currently nearing the border between China and Mongolia. Coming up on 1 minute until the undocking command to open the hooks holding the Soyuz in place where it's been since its arrival on March 19th.
Shall we move the image? D7 has been sent at 004900. So we have started working along the program at 004908. Burlaki 1905. We have a go to send the undocking command at 005000. Copy. The SSVP is done. The probe SM has been retracted. The hooks are closed. TS-18 command has been sent.
Standing by for the undocking command to be issued by Soyuz Commander Alexei Ovchinin that will open the hooks holding the Soyuz to the Poisk module.
D17 has been sent.
And the hooks are now driving open.
D15, it's not, has been lit up. S11 is confirmed. A13 is confirmed. Burlak 2, please prepare the command. D5 on the control panel. Copy.
About 1 minute away from physical separation.
R5 has been prepared and set up.
Station flying over south central Mongolia.
We're expecting undocking at 00:53:30. We'll be providing commentary. Copy.
Standing by for undocking.
Undocking will be a little earlier. So please prepare all the settings for the undocking. Copy.
Undocking confirmed. Physical separation confirmed. At 4:51 p.m. Central Time, 5:51 p.m. Eastern Time, as the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft in the International Space Station flew 258 statute miles over eastern Mongolia.
Separation of the objects of the vehicles. Copy.
An outstanding view from the truss camera, one of the new HD external cameras.
37.
Expedition 49 technically underway.
Clear. There are no objects in it, so nothing, no foreign objects. Copy.
The journey home begins for Williams, Ovchinin, and Skropochka.
Gas 1 and 2 is done, so now we're getting ready for thruster select.
Есть выбор всех двигателей.
00:52:30, we have selection of the thrusters. Copy. Thrusters have been selected.
Now a view from the black and white external engineering camera
1.5 minutes, we're waiting.
On the Soyuz vehicle, showing it backing away from the Poisk module to which it was attached since March 19th.
Visually, we see that range is about 20 meters. Copy.
About 40 seconds away from the first of 2 separation burns by the Soyuz vehicle.
Через 30 секунд ожидаем включения двигателей.
In 30 seconds, we expect that the thrusters will burn.
And the first of the 2 separation burns underway.
So we confirm that
This is an 8-second burn of about 0.5 of a meter per second to increase the opening rate of the Soyuz from the International Space Station.
Was 8 seconds, and now we're maneuvering along the roll attitude.
And roll maneuver is underway to place the Soyuz in the proper attitude and orientation for the second of these 2 separation burns, a much larger burn coming up of 30 seconds in duration. That is expected within the next minute.
So we confirm 21 degrees along the GSO. Copy.
Через 40 секунд ожидаем включения двигателей для отработки второго импульса.
So in 40 seconds, we expect the separation burn number 2. Copy.
Again, undocking occurring on time at 4:51 p.m. Central Time as the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft and the International Space Station flew 258 statute miles over eastern Mongolia.
Есть загорание, работа ДПО 00:55:52. Принято.
So we see that the DPO was lit up at 00:55:52. The burn was...
And the second separation burn is underway, 30-second burn.
20 секунд.
20 seconds.
25 секунд.
25 seconds.
Отработали 30 секунд, работа ДПО.
So burn.
And the burn is complete and good.
So DPO thrusters no longer lit up.
Принято.
We've got the instructions for the cycle.
Есть погасание БДУСов.
So DUT is off, as well as the KDO is off. Copy.
Работаем по странице 98.
So now we're switching to page 98. We confirm.
И1.
So E1.
Ну что ж, СОП Москва, я картинку могу?
Moscow, can I switch to a different image? Or can I fold? Yes, please, go ahead, do as convenient for you.
This view of the control panel in the Soyuz vehicle with all the various parameters. This is the final in the series of TMA vehicles, the 20M, that is coming home for a landing in south central Kazakhstan, landing about 3 hours and 16 minutes from now. A good view of the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft.
Moscow, this is Burlaki 1. Could you tell us when we can deactivate the TV? At 0105. Copy, 0105.
The Soyuz will continue to make its way to a safe distance away from the International Space Station for the next major milestone, which will be the deorbit burn coming up in 2 hours and 21 minutes. Alexei Ovchinin will be deactivating the Soyuz docking mechanism, no longer needed, and is deactivating the television transmitter. They will begin to set their controls in the descent module for the dynamic operations as they enter the descent mode following the deorbit burn. There will be a bit of free time for the crew as they prepare for descent. Meanwhile, at the landing site in south-central Kazakhstan, the landing team, Rosaviatsa, the Russian search and recovery forces, along with the embedded NASA landing team, led by Sean Fuller, the director of human spaceflight operations in Russia, will soon be preparing to make their way to the Zhezkazgan airport for the go-ahead from the search and recovery team to board Russian Mi-8 helicopters en route to the landing site itself.
Anatoly, could you please close the pressure equalization valve KVD MRM2SU? In work, closing the KVD MRM2SU.
The Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft.
Moscow Station, space to ground 1. KVD MRM2 is closed. Copy.
3 departing crew members in the descent module. Williams in the right seat, Ovchinin in the center seat as Soyuz commander, flanked on his left by Alex Gripochka. In the home stretch of 172 days in space and aboard the station, an eventful pair of increments, Expedition 47 and 48, in which this trio, along with their other crewmates, saw the arrival of 6 visiting vehicles. Jeff Williams conducting a pair of spacewalks, upping his career total to 5 in all over a 16-year period.
Бурлаки, ЦУПу Москвы.
Бурлаки, МСС Moscow.
Отвечаю, Бурлак 1.
Go ahead. This is Buрлаки 1.
Можно перевести режим ТВ-ТВ. Положение
You
отключен.
can put the TV transmit mode into the off position, so you can deactivate the TV mode.
Принято.
Actually, it has already been done.
Заключительные операции у нас закончены.
So we're done with the closeout operations.
Очередная команда
The next command
0210.
is going to be at 0210
Операция по включению видеокамер.
to
GoPro.
activate the GoPro cameras.
Да, принято.
Copy.
0210. Включение
02.
GoPro.
10 to activate the GoPro
Да, все
camera.
верно. Ну и
Affirmative.
подготовку к работе по 102.
And to get ready to work page 102.
Принято. На 102 странице будем работать.
Copy. We'll be ready to work page
Передайте нам,
102.
пожалуйста, давление шар-баллонов
And
и топлива.
could you please give us the data for the O2 and propellant tanks?
As we continue to watch the Soyuz drifting slowly away from the International Space Station towards its deorbit burn position, that deorbit burn will be a 4-minute, 41-second braking maneuver with the main engines of the Soyuz firing for that duration. That coming up in just about 2 hours and 14 minutes at 7:21 and 25 seconds p.m. Central Time. Again, everything going extremely well with the Soyuz vehicle. And on-time undocking occurring at 4:51 p.m. Central Time, 5:51 p.m. Eastern. Williams, Ovchinin, and Skripochka in the early stages of their departure away from the station that will lead them to a deorbit engine firing just 2 hours and 12 minutes from now at 7:21 p.m. Central Time. At the staging city in Zhezkazgan, Kazakhstan, the search and recovery forces, the Russian search and recovery forces called Rosaviatsa, along with the NASA landing team, they are preparing to depart their hotel in Zhezkazgan, that remote town to the northwest of the prime landing site, to make their way to the Zhezkazgan airport and board Russian Mi-8 helicopters for about a 40-minute flight to the landing site. Once they arrive there, they will be circling the landing zone in a racetrack pattern to await the arrival of the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft. Once the Soyuz touches down under its large orange and white parachute at the landing site, the helicopters will descend to touch down in a sequential pattern that will enable a large orange medical tent to be erected very close to the Soyuz itself. One by one, the crew members will be extracted from the Soyuz vehicle and placed in comfortable chairs nearby so that they can begin to get their land legs back a bit after 172 days of weightlessness. Once that's over with, the crew, one by one, will be lifted in those chairs and brought inside the medical tent to be helped out of their launch and entry suits and into more comfortable flight clothing. Initial medical tests will be provided for the crew members before they are brought to respective helicopters for a 2-hour flight to the initial staging city in Karaganda, Kazakhstan, to the northeast of the landing site itself, where a brief welcoming ceremony in a Kazakh tradition will be provided for the crew. Jeff Williams then will say goodbye to his Russian cosmonaut crewmates. He will board a NASA plane to fly back to Houston, while Ovchinin and Skripochka board a Gagarin Cosmonaut Training Center aircraft for a flight back to Star City, Russia, and a reunion with their families. And ever so slowly, the Soyuz beginning to fade from view from the truss cameras on the International Space Station. We'll stay with this for as long as we have any meaningful video of the Soyuz. The deorbit burn again scheduled 2 hours and 7 minutes from now at 7:21 and 25 seconds p.m. Central Time. A 4-minute, 41-second retrograde firing, a braking maneuver to enable the Soyuz to slow down and begin its entry back into the Earth's atmosphere. The 3 sections of the Soyuz vehicle will pyrotechnically separate at 7:48 p.m. Central Time. The crew inside the descent module will then barrel into the Earth's atmosphere with the heat shield repelling temperatures building around them of some 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. The plasma trail should be visible to the station itself. After module separation, the crew, as we said, will begin its entry into the Earth's atmosphere at an altitude of about 100 kilometers. The crew then will begin to feel the sensation of gravity pull against their bodies for the first time in almost 6 months. Following their exit from the plasma regime, the crew will stand by for the automated command to open up parachutes. This will be done in a sequential fashion. 2 pilot parachutes are first deployed, the second of which will extract a drogue chute. The drogue chute is then released, measuring about 24 square meters, slowing the Soyuz down from a descent rate of 230 meters per second to just 80 meters per second. The main parachute is then released, covering an area of some 1,000 meters. It slows the Soyuz down to a descent rate of just 7.2 meters per second. Its harnesses first allow the Soyuz to ascend at an angle of 30 degrees to expel heat, then shifts the Soyuz to a straight vertical descent for the remaining 14 minutes of flight. The altimeters on the base of the Soyuz spacecraft will send updated altitude and rate of descent information into the Soyuz computers. And finally, the soft landing engines will fire just a couple of seconds before touchdown, which is scheduled at 8:13 and 53 seconds p.m. Central Time, 7:13 and 53 seconds a.m. Kazakhstan time on Wednesday morning, just 24 minutes after sunrise. We continue to track the departure of the Soyuz vehicle. Again, one of the newly installed HD external cameras on the truss of the station that was installed just 5 days ago during the spacewalk by Jeff Williams and Kate Rubins, now providing imagery of Williams and his crewmates of Chinin and Skropochka departing to a point where the deorbit burn will occur just over 2 hours from now. Aboard the International Space Station, we have a 3-person crew for the next 17 days. There's a view of Takuya Onishi from the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency doing some housekeeping at the end of his workday in the Destiny Laboratory. He, NASA's Kate Rubins, and the new Expedition 49 commander, Anatoly Ivanishin, will remain a 3-person crew for the next 2.5 weeks until the arrival on September 25th U.S. time of NASA flight engineer Shane Kimbrough and his Russian cosmonaut crewmates Sergei Ryzhikov and Andrei Borisenko, who will launch on September 23rd U.S. time, September 24th Baikonur time from the Baikonur Cosmodrome aboard the Soyuz MSO-2 vehicle to round out the Expedition 49 crew. There's a view of Kimbrough, Ryzhikov and Borisenko. Rubin, Zonishi, and Ivanishin will remain on board the station until their departure in the MS-01 Soyuz vehicle on October 30th. This is Mission Control Houston. Just to recap, that dot you see is the Soyuz TMA-20M spacecraft aboard NASA's Jeff Williams, Russian cosmonauts Alexei Ovchinin and Oleg Skripochka flying under the Soyuz call sign of Burlock. This coming after a smooth and uneventful undocking by the Soyuz from the Poisk module of the International Space Station about 35 minutes ago at 4:51 p.m. Central Time, as the Soyuz and the International Space Station flew 258 statute miles over eastern Mongolia. A pair of separation burns from Soyuz thrusters initiated an opening rate between the Soyuz and the station itself. Everything went by the book. And at the moment of physical separation from the Soyuz, by the Soyuz from the station, Expedition 49 began in earnest under the command of Russian cosmonaut Anatoly Ivanishin, remaining on board with NASA's Kate Rubins and Takoya Onishi of the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. They will be a three-person crew for the next 2.5 weeks until 3 new crew members are launched from the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan to re-up the crew to its full complement of 6. So we are less than 2 hours away now from the deorbit burn, a 4-minute, 41-second engine firing that will begin the Soyuz's descent towards its landing site in south-central Kazakhstan. A look here at our events coming up. Our landing coverage begins at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The deorbit burn, as mentioned, will occur at 7:21 p.m. Central Time, resulting in a landing just a few seconds before 8:14 p.m. Central, 9:14 p.m. Eastern Time. So we'll be back in about an hour and a half with our deorbit and landing coverage as the landing team and the search and recovery forces in Zhezkazgan, Kazakhstan begin to make their way towards the airport there to board Russian Mi-8 helicopters for the flight to the landing site and an end to Expedition 48 and an end to 172 days in space, a journey of 72.8 million miles for Jeff Williams, Alexei Ovchinin, and Oleg Skripochka. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you back here in an hour and a half at 7 p.m. Central Time for the end of Expedition 48. Until then, this is Mission Control Houston.